Well, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Week number 5 of the 2024 college football season is here, almost here, coming on Saturday. And we got a good bit to talk about. So let's get into it. Heads Up Play, episode 54.
Man, to think that we're in week 5, we are on Bama, Georgia. I mean, this has been the long illustrated, the long-awaited game of the year. We're here.
This literally has been what we've been waiting for. I mean, since the SEC schedules dropped, I can't remember when did these schedules come out. I want to say it was about last season, maybe in like December or November of last year.
Towards the end of the year, they always do towards the end of the year.
And it was such a big shock seeing one that we play at Georgia to begin with in the regular season because that rarely happens. But two, just to see it this early in the season. I mean,
I'm starting to see Georgia play somebody.
Exactly. Georgia, look, we've talked about it, a number of times now. Georgia's schedule is tough. It's one of the tougher schedules in the SEC, especially when you count what road games they have. I mean, most SEC teams only have 4 road games, and 3 of their 4 are against top-tier SEC teams in Alabama, Texas, and Georgia. But we'll get into that. We got a little bit to talk about regarding last week. We did not have a recap episode this week due to some circumstances, but there wasn't too much to talk about, honestly. It was kind of I don't want to call it a lame week in college football, but it wasn't very exciting. I mean, Alabama and Georgia did not play. Biggest story of last Saturday, I think, bar none, had to be Tennessee, was it not?
Them, and I'll tell you another one we didn't talk about before the episode. Michigan beating USC.
That was huge.
Bully bar. Bully bar.
It showed USC may not be ready for Big Ten ball. Even with the step up in defense, which they certainly have had, they still may not be ready for the smash mouth ball that the Big Ten provides.
I mean, murder ball. That's all they did.
That's what it was.
Ran the ball. I mean, they absolutely wore them out.
Michigan of 2023 and 2024 reminds me a lot of some of those really, really early Nick Saban Alabama teams, just in the style of play. Very, very, very run heavy. You had a passing game, but not really. I mean, your quarterbacks were Greg McElroy, John Parker Wilson, right? Really heavy on the run and big, big emphasis on hyper great defense. But yeah, so Michigan comes up with a big win there. They kind of, I don't want to say save their season. I still think they're probably like an 8-4 team, maybe. But Tennessee has looked scary good. And I know they only beat Oklahoma 25-15, but they did seem like they were kind of holding back a little bit on offense. Now, that's not to say that Oklahoma has a really good defense. Okay.
Defense is there. Offense
awful. Awful.
We said that preseason. We said we're not high on Oklahoma, and y'all gave us a lot of shit for that. But I'm going to tell you, we're right so far. Jackson Arnold is not him. He's already been pulled out for a true freshman. Check the receipts.
Come back. We called it. We've been wrong on a few things, but we've been right on a few things too, and that's one of them. But Oklahoma. Look, we said one of the two teams, Texas or Oklahoma, was going to struggle this year. Looks like it's going to be Oklahoma. Texas still hasn't gotten into SEC play yet. I think they play Mississippi State this weekend. But look, they've got an easy path for a while. But Tennessee, I know they only beat Oklahoma 25-15, but they look really good. But it's also like I'm not 100% sold on them yet because there were times when that defense from Oklahoma really shoved it to Tennessee. I mean, it's just if Oklahoma had a slightly better offense, I think that could have been a much different game.
I agree. I mean, I was impressed with Tennessee, but then again, I wasn't. I mean, it was a boring game. It was a very, very boring game.
A not so boring game, at least for us Alabama fans. At this point, it's sad. It's sad to watch. It's kind of pitiful, right? Auburn just is in a funk. they cannot seem to get it together right now.
I feel like the locker room's lost. I mean, after you had the comments of Hugh Freeze and Peyton Thorne, it just feels like the locker room's lost, in my opinion.
It almost feels like Hugh Freeze is like on a downward path, right? Like it's like he's losing himself a little bit. Like he's coming off like a sore loser. I mean, I don't know if you saw it, but they've got a radio show that he does on Monday nights, similar to Alabama's with Kalen DeBoer, and he said, "We beat Arkansas 9 times out of 10." Sorry.
Sam Pittman, but we would beat him. We'd beat him.
Yes, sorry, Hugh Freeze. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. You may beat them 4 times out of 10. I think Arkansas is a better team than Auburn, and that's saying a lot. That's saying a lot. And him actually thinking that says a lot.
After this, watching Auburn this weekend, that brought me to ask a question. What's in a worse state? The Auburn Tigers or the Florida Gators?
I would say
Florida's going that way. Florida's going that way. They are in their Brian Harston age. This is their Brian Harston age.
I think Florida's in a worse spot right now just because
of their history.
Like they were at the top of the mountain for a while, and it's just been a steady decline. I think Auburn can be saved. Auburn is at a point where they can be saved if they just find the right pieces. Florida, they got to tear the whole thing down.
I'm going to tell you, if Auburn does not land Deuce Knight, that commit to Notre Dame, they will lose those 4 freshman wide receivers. That's all they talked about. They will lose them in the portal.
Well, look, I don't know how much you keep up with recruiting. I used to be really into recruiting, years ago, and I kind of got back into it this season. Auburn's really picked it up in recruiting. I mean, that's the one thing that Hugh Freeze can say he's done really well is he has recruited his ass off, especially in state. He's got a lot of those guys that, may normally go to Alabama. Alabama's recruiting from California, Florida, Texas. Hugh Freeze is getting a lot of those top-tier in-state guys. When will they start decommitting? I mean, at some point, yes, they want to play for an in-state team. They want to play for winners, too.
You're right. He's doing good in the recruiting, but he ain't got a quarterback yet. Yeah. None of those recruits have been quarterbacks yet. You can get all these in-state receivers, all that. They're going to leave as soon as they don't get a quarterback. I'm telling you, Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, don't be shocked. I would not be shocked if one of those major freshman wide receivers this year, if they keep on having the year they look like they're going to have, I'm telling you, one of them will enter the portal.
I wouldn't be shocked if one of them comes to Alabama. I mean, if Alabama has a successful season passing because of DeBoer's history with creating great wide receivers, just look what he did at Washington of all places. If he can do what he did at Washington at Alabama with Jalen Milroe as the quarterback, don't be shocked if we get an Aiden Holloway version in football. But that's kind of all we really had from this past weekend. Utah pulled off a really good looking game against Oklahoma State. I thought Oklahoma State would win that game. Actually,
the game I was shocked by Kansas State getting their ass handed to them by BYU. Shocked by that one. That one really shocked me. And I'll tell you another one, and it includes our I can't even say the word right now. South Alabama.
The Jags
beat the hell out of Appalachian State.
We're going to learn a lot about the Jags when they go into Baton Rouge because LSU, they just lost Harold Perkins. They now have no defense whatsoever. No defense whatsoever. Look for the Jags. Still probably going to lose, but look for the Jags to put up some points against the Tigers. And then Clemson is a problem. Is Clemson? I don't want to say Clemson's all the way back, but man, have they looked good.
I wouldn't say they're all the way back, but I would say they are. If not Miami, they are a front runner for the ACC. I would probably put them on the same level as Louisville.
I think it's going to be those two teams in the ACC championship.
Yeah,
Clemson and Miami. Because Miami, looking at their schedule, I don't think they lose a game in the regular season going forward. and I don't know if Clemson does. I think Clemson has a little bit of a tougher schedule, but I think
Where do they play South Carolina at this year?
Oh, that's a good question. I want to say they played in South Carolina.
Well, then they might lose that one. In my
South Carolina has been a big shock.
If Lamont Summers can stay healthy.
That I was watching Josh Pate the other day, or maybe I was watching something that he was on, and a guy asked him what's been the biggest shock in the SEC so far, and the go-to answer, because I got to thinking about that.
At Clemson.
Okay, so that might be better in Clemson's favor, but the go-to answer when asked the question of what's the biggest shock, right, is to go immediately to like the biggest disappointment. You can look at like LSU not looking so great. You can look at Florida. On the adverse of that, some teams that we thought would be bad that are looking good. I look at Arkansas, still not a fantastic team, but I look at South Carolina and they look dangerous. They really do.
Spoiler, yeah. We said South Carolina is the type of team they can go 6-6 or 8-4. You just don't. There's no in between with
Yep. Well, let's get into this week because we got some pretty good games this week outside of the big one.
Before we get into the games, can we please talk about how the NIL deal? There's got to be something going on with this. You have this, and everybody's talked about it. UNLV. UNLV's quarterback was the first one. The running back did it, and then Bear Alexander at USC played at Georgia. He did it. But UNLV's quarterback,
Matthew Sluka.
Yes. He took a verbal commitment, never had nothing in writing, a verbal commitment to get $100,000 to play at UNLV. And they have balled the hell out, beat 2 Power 5 schools in Houston and Kansas. And then he goes to Barry Odom, formerly at Missouri, says, "Hey, man, can I get the rest of my money?" He said, "What money? We're not giving you that money." There was no agreement. It was all verbal. I think it's bullcrap on both sides.
Yeah. But I think we need to see and know more of the story, right, before we make opinions about either side. From what we know, it is BS on both sides, right? Number one, Matthew Sluka has created a domino effect with players now opting out and redshirting after a few games in the middle of the season. We saw former Georgia, now former Bear Alexander, USC defensive player. He's now redshirted. I think this is just the tip of the iceberg.
UNL season's over. I mean, they're starting running back and starting quarterback's gone.
Yeah, they play Fresno State this weekend, and this could drastically change their season. I mean, they were favorites to be the group of 5 representatives in the playoffs. And now that drastically changes.
This reminds me of when Christian McCaffrey was the first player to sit out of a bowl game.
People lost their minds because of that. This is just going to be a regular thing going forward.
Yes, this is the first of many. But yes, let's get into the games. We got a lot of games to go over. So what's the first game we're going to talk about today?
First on the list, we have the Kentucky Wildcats, who just came off of a couple weeks ago, almost big upset against Georgia, going on the road to Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels. Who you got? What you think about this game?
I got Ole Miss a lot by big. I'm going to be honest, though. I'm very tired of everybody saying Ole Miss is so good.
We need to see it.
They ain't played shit.
We need to see it. When your best win is Wake Forest, it just doesn't tell me much.
Oh, too. It wasn't even like you. Was it at Wake Forest?
It was at Wake Forest. Because there was that whole deal that Lane Kiffin made because Wake Forest decided to cancel them going to Ole Miss next season. I got Ole Miss big in this game as well. I do like Ole Miss a lot this season, but we need to see it. We need to see a big win against an SEC team, and then we need to see a win against a big-time SEC team later on.
This will be one of those games you're watching another game, and you look on the bottom of your screen, and you go, "Oh shit, there goes Kentucky right there. They're pretty close with them." And then that's how that game goes. And then you see, oh, and then never mind, they blew it.
I've been seeing a lot of people recently really compliment Pete Golding Pete Golding, obviously the offensive coordinator now at Ole Miss,
Oh,
formerly at Alabama. We despised Pete Golding. I hated Pete Golding more than Bill O'Brien. I thought he was the main problem. But there's a lot of people saying Pete Golding is one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. No.
Furman, they play Wake Forest, like they play nobody. No. Hell to the no.
Minnesota, a team that I just feel like you rarely see, going on the road to the Big House.
The reason why I put this game on the list, how much of a leash does PJ Fleck have? He was a hot name coming out of the Western Michigan, or was it Central Western Michigan? And everybody wanted PJ Fleck, and he went to Minnesota. Why did he go to Minnesota? And I feel like he just ain't done much there. Surely, they're already 1-1, I think, or 2-1 or something. This is, I don't know. Is that going to be a name you might see become available for someone?
Potentially. It's just Minnesota. It's just it's not an attractive place to go to. It's hard to win. It gets so cold. You play a lot of snow games there. Give me Michigan in this game, but I can't see that being the case later on down the season.
When you get the Vikings in your home state, like you're second tier, like you're automatically second tier. No one really cares about the Gophers. But
yeah, I got one. You give you Michigan?
Yes.
Michigan for me as well. I got one that you didn't put down here. This one is really, really interesting to me because I think it's a big test for both head coaches. He's coming home. He's coming home to his home state of Florida. Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes going on the road to Central Florida. They're up there in the mountains. They're in that dry air, and they're coming down to swampy Florida. I think this makes for a big-time win for Gus Malzahn.
Give me the Gus bus. I think UCF, to be honest, is a very much a dark horse for the Big. Give me UCF big. But I will say, though, I do kind of think, don't be shocked if Colorado puts up a fight.
I think it's going to be an offensive battle. Gus Malzahn and his crazy, up-tempo offense against Shadur Sanders, Travis Hunter. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it'll be something to pay attention to. Kansas State hosting Oklahoma State after losing to Utah this past weekend.
That's going to be a tough one, I'll be honest. They both got their ass whooped this past weekend. Who is going to want it more? Who wants that rebound? Who's just gritty enough to get it? And I think that's going to be the Wildcats of Kansas State.
I'm with you. I liked what I did. Excuse me. I did not like what I saw from Oklahoma State this past weekend. Their offense just couldn't get it together against a good Utah defense, but I don't think that they're that great, right? And Oklahoma State struggled against Arkansas too, who's good but not great either. So I'm kind of, my stock in Oklahoma State is going down. Give me Kansas State in this one. I think I like the way Kansas State has played in some games. They've played Tulane really close. I wasn't really a big fan of that. But give me Kansas State in this game.
Give me Kansas State. I like the colors.
This is also a game that not a lot of people are talking about that I think people should be talking about. Louisville at Notre Dame.
I think this is so easy. I do. Give me Louisville.
Yes.
Big.
Yes.
Big.
I'm not going to go big, but I am going to go Louisville in this game. I do not think Notre Dame is it this season.
And I hate it because I like Riley Leonard as when he first came out. His stock was so high. They had him as a first-round quarterback in the NFL, and I feel like it's just slowly.
He's looked very mortal this season. He's just looked very average. You said it. We both said it. We thought Riley Leonard was a pretty big step up from Sam Hartman from last year, and Sam Hartman was a decent quarterback. And Riley Leonard has underperformed based on our expectations. Sure.
I thought Notre Dame was a shoe. When I think of the 12-team playoff, I thought that was Notre Dame's, they're going to make it.
It's just every year, right?
Yeah. This is built for them.
And you know, if they lose this game, then it's one thing. But you just lost still 3 weeks ago to Northern Illinois. You can't afford to lose any game going forward, right?
Oh, yeah.
And if you lose to Louisville, you're done. You're done because you don't play a conference championship game. You're done. You're out.
Let's talk about Northern Illinois. You beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame, and then you lose to damn Buffalo at home.
That just says more about Notre Dame, I think, than Northern Illinois.
They lost their head coach.
Right? Yeah. I think that says more about Notre Dame than it does Northern Illinois, to be honest with you.
I'm telling you, my God.
Like Notre Dame needs Northern Illinois to go undefeated, right? And that's not going to happen.
Northern Illinois will lose, and I don't know their schedule. Just they'll lose 5 games because
Probably.
Why
I still think in the group of 5, your biggest contender is probably Memphis, and then probably Boise State, maybe a few others in there. USF looks good, like they can win out in the AAC. I don't know, but I think Memphis and Boise State. I'll still say UNLV until they lose a game, which is probably going to come pretty quickly. Another big game in the SEC. This could be, if they lose this game, the Auburn Tigers, that is, I think people will start to come after Hugh Freeze. I really do. Auburn fans are still defending Hugh Freeze, but at some point, they're going to start going after him and saying, hey, where are we going up or are we going down? Just like Billy Napier. Like Billy Napier, Florida should be on an upward trajectory in year 3. Auburn should be on an upward trajectory in year 2, but it looks like they're going downward from last season.
It just depends on how bad they lose to Oklahoma. I saw with the line, let me check the line again, but I saw where they opened the line up, Auburn just 2-point underdog. 2 points. Shot.
I guess that's
they're not starting off Jackson Arnold. Now it's the true freshman.
And that's when the offense kind of took off a little bit in that Tennessee game is when they put him in.
They have Oklahoma only by a point.
Wow. I guess they're just.
I don't see it.
I guess they're just, basing that off of the lack of offense for both teams and, home field advantage for Auburn. I think Oklahoma wins this game. I really do. I think they're going to come out fired up a little bit, and I just think Auburn still has not found themselves offensively. Oklahoma, for one thing, they're leading the country, or the conference at least, in turnover margin. They'll force some turnovers on you. And who's leading them in the opposite direction? Auburn. Just watch out for interception after interception, fumble after fumble on Auburn's part, and I think that's going to be the difference in the game and why I think Oklahoma wins it.
Give me Oklahoma big. Big, 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 big.
We talked about it a little bit earlier, but South Alabama, our alma mater, going on the way to Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
This is going to be closer than what people think.
I think so too.
I really think this could be the upset of the week. I really think this could be the upset.
Would that be the biggest win in South Alabama school history? It would have to be. It would have to be. I mean, Oklahoma State is number 1 right now, you would think.
Was Oklahoma State unranked?
I think they were.
What, Mississippi State?
I think they were unranked too.
This will by far will be the biggest win then.
If it happens. I don't think it will, but I do think it could be very close. Gio Lopez has really impressed me. Really impressed me.
We have a shot if we don't go in the mentality of we're going into the Death Valley at night.
Yeah. They got to take on that, hey, they got to believe they can win in order to do so. They got to be like USF going into Alabama, right? They got to just go out there and believe they can actually beat them, right?
Yes.
All right, this is a game. This
is my upset of the week. This is my upset of the week.
Okay. Illinois at Beaver Stadium, Penn State.
I'm not big on Penn State whatsoever. I never am. I just don't like James Franklin at Penn State. I don't think he's that good of a coach. He never comes up in the big moments. Give me Illinois, the Fighting. What are they? Fighting Red?
The Fighting Illini.
Yes, that's right.
The Fighting Red. They're orange. It's okay. You're colorblind.
Give me them. I think Illinois by a lot. Actually, I was shocked that they beat Nebraska, but when I started watching the game, I thought, man, this is a pretty good team right here. Illinois. Brett Bielema's got them boys going right there. But give me Illinois for Brett Bielema's biggest win at Illinois. What? No, he's already
Wow.
beat Penn State. He's already beat Penn State. Remember that overtime game?
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to go with not so fast, my friend. Give me Penn State in this game, but I'm not super confident about it. And I'm not super confident about it for the same reason that I'm not so confident that Miami might not go undefeated this season. I'm just not confident in the head coach. I mean, it's just like Mario Cristobal. I'm not confident in the head coach in the big game. I think that this comes down to talent, which I think Penn State has, and home field advantage. But it wouldn't shock me in the slightest if Illinois pulls the upset.
They got Penn State beating them by 19 and a half.
I don't see that. I'm
No
willing
way.
to take Illinois in the points in that.
There's no way.
I don't
But
see it.
let's talk about the big game.
The big one.
You know, Bama, Georgia. This game right here, it's up there with Texas, Georgia, of this like game of the year. Looking like also now Tennessee, Bama might be.
Yeah.
But this game shape, you got former President Donald Trump, you got Tommy Tuberville, you got Senator or whatever she is, Katie Britt, you got the legend Kid Rock coming out.
Who?
Kid Rock.
Okay. I didn't know he was coming. Dang, all Fox News coming.
Wow. Maybe
Laura Ingram's going to be there. Sean Hannity.
Maybe James Spann. I mean, I don't know.
This game scares me.
I just hope damn Hurricane Helena don't be there.
That's what I'm saying. From what I've been seeing, looks like it's going to be up into Tennessee and above Friday afternoon.
Hurricane Helena's going to be singing Rocky Top.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she's going to be singing Rocky Top, not Sweet Home Alabama, all summer long.
Yes.
Like Kid Rock being there.
Tell me what you think of this game, because I want to hear yours, and then I'll tell you mine.
You know, I listen to as a big Alabama fan. I'm a daily listener of some friends. I know they're listening for sure. They're not listening. Locked on Bama, Jimmy Stein and Luke Robinson. Listen to them every day, and my boy Luke made a good point because he was saying Alabama was going to win this game all summer long, and now he's not so confident in it. And you know why he's not so confident in it? It's the same reason I'm not so confident in it. I've been seeing a whole slew of people pick Alabama for this game, and it scares me. It scares me. I do not like that in the slightest.
Nobody's ever been close to Nick Saban. Only one person, and that's Kirby Smart. And only one person Kirby Smart could not beat was Nick Saban.
Yep.
And I will tell you.
Well, he couldn't beat Dan Mullen. Couldn't
This
beat Mullen.
Saban type of team. Type of game. You got bumped down to number 2. You have a bye week. Everybody's telling you, you ain't worth shit. You ain't no good this year. You ain't no good. You struggle. Kentucky? You're Brock Vandergrift? You can't beat Brock Vandergrift? Watch the Bulldogs come out. I'm going to tell you, though, what scares me about Alabama's offense, and I've said it all year, we can't mount a drive. We have to go for a 30-yard We have to go for a 30-yard touchdown. We have to go for a deep – we cannot go from one end of the field to the other end of the field and score. We just can't.
We've been stopped numerous times, when we're trying to dink in and dunk it, try to put a drive together. USF stopped us many times, with their bull rushing, and even Wisconsin stopped us a few times. It's almost like the big time plays, while they're great, it's almost like they kind of come out of desperation a little bit. Does it not seem that way? My aspect on this game is kind of different than how I normally view games like this, where my brain says one thing and then my brain says the other team, but my heart says Bama. Well, in this situation, it's a little bit different because my brain actually says Alabama, but my heart feels like it's a loss. I'll tell you why my brain says Alabama. Well, actually, I'll tell you first why my heart says Georgia. My heart says Georgia because, to your point, it's just setting up for a Georgia win. They're coming off of a poor performance against Kentucky. They're on a bye week. Kirby's like 20-0 off of bye weeks, or like he's only lost like one game off a bye week. And Kirby is just so good at getting his players riled up and putting stuff in their minds, saying people thinking you're going to lose this game, which people actually are this time. People are picking Alabama left and right, which that's rat poison, So it just makes for a Georgia win, especially when you throw in Donald Trump and all the other outside stuff. On the other side, I think the matchups actually favor Alabama. I really do. I mean, the offense is just so much more explosive than Georgia's. And like when I look at it, I think the biggest weakness on Alabama's team is the secondary, because especially at the cornerback position, because there's been a number of times, against USF and Wisconsin where our young corners, our little freshmen, Red Morgan, Xavier Brown, they got burned. And it just came down to the quarterbacks overthrowing them. Carson Beck ain't going to make those mistakes.
No, he's not.
That is unless he's getting that pressure that we can put on him. If LT Overton can come at him, if Tim Keenan can come at him, Carson Beck is 38% completion percentage when he's under pressure. That, I think, is going to be the key to the game. And you gotta be the swarm D. You got to swarm, and you got to force turnovers, and then you got to score off of them.
Who has a big game for Alabama on defense?
On defense, I actually think Jahad Campbell has the biggest game on defense.
Give me Justin Jefferson.
Okay, I like that. I would say any of our linebackers, Lawson, Campbell, Jefferson, any of them. I would say those are probably going to be the main
players. Who do you think he's going to play for us on offense?
Well, all right. So, this is something else they said on Locked On Bama is like, someone, whether it's a coach on Georgia or another team, they're sitting there going, don't you let that 17-year-old score on you. Are you going to let that 17-year-old show you up?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think they're going to try so hard to lock down Ryan Williams. Now, I think he'll get one. I think he'll break for one. I think they're going to try and cover him so much that it might leave Jeremy Bernard open a little bit. Don't be shocked, I think, if a Kobe Prentice or an Emmanuel Henderson or a Kendrick Law comes up big in a big-time moment. But I think on offense, to be honest, it's going to be the run game. You got to get the run game going. Give me Jam Miller. Give it to Justice Haynes. Give it to Jalen. Let them run it.
My people that need to step up, 5 people.
Okay.
Offensive line. Block, no hold, no penalties. Block, beat their ass. We're going to have to punt. I know DeBoer is all about pass. We got to run it down their throat. Run it out.
And that was kind of the story of last year's game in the SEC Championship is like, yeah, Alabama's offensive line struggled through much of the year. And then when they played Georgia, they put them on their ass. I mean, they were pushing them down into the ground. You need to recreate that this weekend in order to win the game. I think that's a huge point. Huge.
Before we go, I haven't announced it yet. Who is the guest game day picker?
I've been thinking about this. Anytime they go to Alabama, who do they always get to be the guest picker? Joe Namath. Every single time it's Joe Namath. I love Joe Namath. I love Broadway Joe. One of the greatest, the greatest Alabama quarterback not in the Saban era. 100%. You can't get Joe Namath yet again. Come on, let's do somebody different. Get an actual celebrity. I don't know many celebrities who are outright big Alabama fans. The one that I know is Melissa Joan Hart, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. She's a huge Alabama fan. So I think that would be pretty cool. But to be honest, I think the best is going to be Nate Oates. Get Nate Oates up there as a guest picker.
I was gonna say either Nate Oates, maybe like a Julio Jones.
Julio Jones would be good.
I'm trying to think who else.
Sean Alexander would be pretty good. It wouldn't shock me if it's a former player or a coach of another team. But I feel like I'm gonna be honest. I feel like they're probably just gonna get some random celebrity, like a comedian who has nothing to do with Alabama.
What's his last name that was there last week? Who was there last year?
Oh, I can't remember. Oh, the guy from Tennessee, the Vandy fan. Forgot about.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're probably gonna get some guy like that. But all right, question of the day, real quick. Question of the day, because I got one for you. I am about to get slammed by a hurricane not too longer after this. What is your... Do you have any tips or...
I have someone in my house right now.
You have someone in your house? Okay, real quickly, favorite hurricane story, go. And then go kill the robber.
Oh, he's a friend. Okay. So, favorite hurricane story. I lived through Hurricane Sally. It's odd. You know, I've lived through tornadoes, the April 27th tornadoes that came through Tuscaloosa and hit Grove, Alabama, hit Walker. I lived through those, and I lived through Hurricane. I've never felt anything like Hurricane Sally when the next morning after it hit, and everybody, and like as soon as sunrise hit, and like nobody, like, hey, John Rivers and his family's getting up. Hey, this family's getting. Not everybody got up. Everybody got up at one time and emerged, like as soon as the sun rose. Everybody went up together, and you just walked out, and you saw all these roofs tore off, cars destroyed. Like it was a creepy. It felt like something out of the movies.
Yeah, it's eerie for sure. Hurricanes are especially, you were down there where the eye came through. I mean, you went through the hurricane for sure.
Yeah,
I've never been through like the direct hit of a hurricane.
It's when you're in the eye, it's like boom, boom, and then when you get in the eye, it's silence, no rain. And Hurricane Sally, for all you people that don't really know what that, I think it was a Cat 2, a high Cat 2 on the verge of being a Cat 3, and it was one of the slowest moving hurricanes they say in history. So it was just slowly moving. And when it moves slow, it's in everything. It's going after everything. And you and I are like, why did it just get silent? It was the creepiest thing. And it happened at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
That's weird. That is weird for sure. I've never been through like that close of a hurricane, but I've been, on the outskirts. I was in Mobile for Hurricane Sally, so definitely got hit, just not quite that hard. But I've worked hurricanes because of my job, so I've seen hurricane damage really badly. Saw a lot of Hurricane Ian damage down in Florida and Fort Myers, and that was a major hurricane. That was a Cat 4 that hit, almost a Cat 5, and it just destroyed the entire Fort Myers Beach. I remember driving down Fort Myers Beach, which is, imagine like Gulf Shores in the summer. You driving down, the T, and there's people everywhere, stores open, high-rise condos. People are just walking everywhere. Same with like Panama City. This is as big of a place, if not bigger, usually more populated and busier. Nobody there. Everything is just empty. It's quiet. It's like a whole abandoned town, essentially. It was just creepy. But that's it. But guys, that does it for episode 54 of the Heads Up Play podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow us on all our social medias right there, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, X. And give us your predictions this weekend. What do you think about Alabama, Georgia? What's the keys to the game? Who you pulling for? Because at this point, just as many people probably hate Georgia as they do Alabama. So maybe you're just pulling for both of them to suck. I don't know. But hit him with it, John Rivers.
Hey, y'all stay classy.
Stay classy.